Hey guys, new video here. Cast on crit, EK, GC. EK is Ethereal Knives, GC is Glacial Cascade. There's a few other things thrown in here. I'm going to try to be comprehensive in this video. It's going to be a really long video. And hopefully someone will learn something, okay? I also have some nice little drawings that I made for this video that I will show on stream. So first, we're going to do a map. This is a barrel chambers. It's a tier 14, and we're gonna put a little beyond on it. Beyond is necessary for this. You are juicing the maps. The maps are as much of an item as a headhunter. The map itself, the rolls you put on it to some degree, the sextants that you put on maps, the map mod that you choose from here, even the prophecies that you choose to run. For example, barrel chambers would be something like rats. Let's just go with rats. So I have one procced. I already have one procced. So we're gonna put beyond on. Those are as much a part of your build as the items itself. I can't stress this enough. So put beyond on your maps. And most of the reason for this is because you get more rares. The skill revolves around the first 20 to 30 seconds of a map where you are juicing rares. You're gonna see the playstyle here. All right, this is I'm just cycloning around, right? And you'll see me holding down the cyclone a little bit more than usual. I press my weapon swap. I kill one monster, I get my rampage. I now have Shroud Walker, I'm shrouding around, and now my crit is pretty much 100%, no matter what. As you can see, I will now hold down my cyclone less. The playstyle is you go towards the knobs and you do the tippy tappy method. You do not hold down the cyclone unless you have to. As you can see here, this is holding down cyclone. Look how slow I am. You see this? You see how slow that is? Now look if I run. You see this? Look how fast I am. So you do not want to hold down your cyclone if you can help it. There is a few instances. There's like 2 instances off the top of my head where you do want to hold down your cyclone. Number one, there's worm barrels. And as you can see here, some of these barrels on the ground, they might be worms. I'm not sure though, because I can't really see that well in here. Okay, right here, yeah, see. So you can't see the worm barrels, and the EK is notoriously bad at opening worm barrels. Like Herald of Thunder will open the worm barrels, but it ticks at 200 milliseconds, okay, for one barrel, or for individual barrels. So the reason you hold down your cyclone is if you want to clear worm barrels very efficiently and be able to one tap the worms that come out, because there's a lot of rares in there. Okay, that is one of the situations where you hold down your cyclone. The other is single target, metamorph and boss mods, and maybe beyond mods, but really you'll be one tapping. So I run around, I do not hold down my cyclone, I am simply tippy tapping. I have right click as my cyclone, as you can see, and then I've my E button. This relieves wrist pain and any kind of like carpal tunnel that you might have. If you have 2 buttons for your main output of damage, ooh, look at this thing's staying with me. You will never have wrist pain, okay? If you have 1 button, you will notice it that your wrist will get kind of tired. So sometimes you might hear me tapping this. Do you hear that? That's my E. And then sometimes you might hear me right clicking, right? But it's all just as fast. You can alternate your fingers and never get any wrist pain. This applies not just to this build, but a lot of other builds, right? So I can clean up, and the EK shoots out, the GC shoots out. Kind of hard to see because I have Gore GC, and I have EK as Ebony EK, so it's black, so you can't really see it that well in here. One tap the boss, press your number 4. Well, mine's number 4, yours is V, and you quick tip: pressing your master hotkey, for you default it's V, will summon Tawny. You do not have to click the thing. You do not have to click on the thing on the bottom right to summon him. Okay. So as you can see, everything's pretty easy. We're fully juiced, and we're just destroying, one tapping everything. That's the playstyle. And in open maps, it is you'll see some pretty crazy chains explosions. So that is the map itself. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and dump all my stuff here, and now we'll get to the hard part. I made a video about this earlier. This is Mark 6 as of this point. There's a sale 2.5 exalts, but we'll have to cancel that because we're making a video. So let me do this /DND. The last video had a certain setup, and that setup is totally okay. I like this setup more. It is more stable for enfeeble maps. I've tested out enfeeble and resist maps extensively. Every iteration, this is once again, this is like Mark 6. Every iteration I ran at least 50 maps on to see the feeling of it. Gem swaps, jewel swaps, skill tree swaps, things like this. Right now, I believe that this is the stable version. Things could change after the patch. There's a patch coming out where like maps are like juicier, bug fixes and all that stuff. But as of right now, January 7th. This is the version that I am going with, and it is the version that I like best. So you can watch my previous videos to see the first version I did, and this video I'm going to go over everything once again in case you're like just really want the explanations. Okay, first we're going to look at the skill tree. This is the skill tree right here. It is an Inspire Learning. This is a stacking build, once again full juice build for pure farming the maps in a really fun way. It is not for boss killing, it is for grinding out Awakener level 8 maps extremely easily and with high speed. You will want a strict loot filter because picking up too much loot, like if you have never sinks like strict, just regular strict filter, it just will not cut it. You will lose so many stacks by picking up all these garbage rares and stuff. Okay, so this is purely for speed farming in a method that I find to be extremely fun. So on Awakening 8 as maps tier 14 through 16. So skill tree, we go Assassin. The Mistwalker buff, Elusive, is insane. You can read the effects there. You get increased elusive effect, you get reduced damage, you get like you can't really take the extra crit damage like while you have the elusive, and elusive is pretty much up all the time. It is a huge defensive buff. It is very tanky. It kind of stacks with other things that we take on this, like you know, like the acrobatics and the phase acro. And if you want, you can even put like Whale Grace into this build and stuff like that, but that's for later. So elusive, just baseline defensive and kind of a offensive as well, you know, attack and cast speed there. And yeah, very, very strong. This node right here, going down here, Unstable Infusion, you will always have power charges with this, because if you crit, you gain some power charges. If you don't crit, you're gonna gain some power charges. There's a +1 max, so every power charge is 0.4, or sorry, it is 40% increased crit. It's very important because there's base crit as well. And then going over here, this is base crit. How base crit works is that base crit is added to the gem itself. So if you look at a skill like EK, where's my EK? You see that critical strike chance of 6% on the gem? That is the base crit. If I were to socket this gem on the Twilight Strand, okay, you make a fresh new character, you put in an EK, you look in your character sheet, right? You don't assign any skill points, you don't have any gear on, your crit chance is 6%. What this does is if you were to have this on the Twilight Strand, or at like when you first hit town, no items, no skill points, this is 2% crit chance at max power charges, and you're always at max power charges. That is base. Your 6 will go to 8, okay? And you're like, okay, I don't get that. Why is that a big deal? Well, base crit is a more multiplier. You have effectively gained 33% more crit in this situation, and that is multiplied by increased modifier. So if you look on the tree here, like let's take like a lot of people go this, right? If you're a shadow, you see this 20% increased crit chance. Like this is, once again, this video I'm going to explain it like every little detail so that nothing can possibly be missed, hopefully. Okay, so to alleviate the questions down the road, and maybe people looking at like the setup and stuff who have like these little like minute questions, that maybe they'll be answered. This 20% increased crit chance is not 20 added to the gem, right? It doesn't make my base crit 26, okay? It is 20%, as in 0.2 times 6, right? The base crit added onto the 6, so that's 1.2. So then once again, fresh character, no gear, no points, will be at 7.2 crit chance. Makes sense? But if you have the base crit added on, because of this node, 2 plus 6 is 8 base crit, and then a node, once again, going back to this example, if you pick up a node that's 20% increased crit chance, this is now multiplied by the 8. So you get 1.6, right, for 20% increased crit chance instead of the 1.2. Okay, that should tell you how powerful base crit is. Think of it as a more multiplier. Everyone knows, you know, there's memes about more versus increased, you know, all that good stuff. More multiplier is base crit, okay? Or base crit is more multiplier. It is insane. The multi per power charge, that's a little bit, 6 times 8, 48% multi, not bad. But if you look here naturally, let's just take our EK for example. Naturally, our crit multi is 285. You know, not too great, but in the beginning of the map, it helps a little bit. But later on, that 48% crit multi is nothing, because you're gonna have like 1600, 2000 crit multi. And so the way that this works is like, if you have the crit multi, you got to divide it, right, as like the more multiplier. So when you have a little bit, let's say I had no crit multi, right, and I think the base is what, 150, and I added the 48, that'd be pretty darn good, right? That's actually pretty darn good. It's like doubling your extra critical damage. But when you have like 2,000, 48 divided by 2,000 is nothing in terms of more multiplier. So matters a tiny bit at the beginning of the map. Later on in the map, fails to matter in any way. 10% movement speed, very nice in the beginning. Later on, you're gonna have between 1 and 2,000% movement speed. So 10 divided by 1,000, 10 divided by 2,000, barely any movement speed, okay? So the big node here is the 2% max power charges, or 2% base crit at max power charges. This base crit applies to literally everything, every single hit. So what do we hit with this build? Our Herald of Thunder base crit is up by 2, okay? Our physical explosion from killing enemies is up by 2. Our attack crit, our Cyclone, is up by 2. In some very rare instances that you forget that it's a cannot regen map and you spin too fast, you don't have the lucidity wheel, which we'll talk about later, you switch to your auto attack. That's your auto attack, right, base is increased by 2. If you choose to use Herald of Ice in this setup, that base is increased by 2. Every hit that goes out from your character is increased by 2. Things that do not have base crit, such as Herald of Thunder, Herald of Ice, they have 0 base crit, which is why adding base crit and then scaling the deadly mod is just insane, right? Because it will quickly take a 4 point something base crit, which I'll show you how we get to that number later on, into 100% naturally. No diamond flask, no weird stuff going on, okay? It is, base crit is insane. I cannot stress this enough. And especially when it works with the other assassin multipliers, okay? So everything is increased base crit by 2 from just this node. If we go over here, these are 2 very interesting nodes. While leveling, I might take this, right? I might take this while leveling, but then I'll quickly switch to this to get more stability on the build. So basically the mini nodes like really fail to matter. You can think of it as like just like little tiny things that you won't even notice. But this one is basically, if an enemy is on low life in this game means less than 35% HP. If an enemy is less than that HP, you're doing 20% more damage, right? That's a flat 20% multiplier on everything after all the other calculations too. That is huge, right? For finishing off an enemy. Your critical hits have Culling Strike. Since you have 100% crit anytime it matters, you always have Culling Strike, right? You can think of it as like 10% more damage because, you kill them off 10% faster, at 10% they die. On small mobs, whites, blues, and yellows, doesn't matter because you're gonna one-shot them, right? So it doesn't matter because if you take it from 100% to 0, then who cares if you have Culling Strike? If you take it from 100 to like 9% health, then it does matter, right? And that's only on a metamorph, on a map boss, things like that, where you'll benefit from this. But it is huge when it matters on the single target scenarios. The 40% crit multi on full life doesn't matter. It is the same reasoning as this that I just talked about, that crit multi per power charge. Once you get enough on the single target scenarios and stuff like that, it fails to matter because you have so much anyways. But I guess any little bit does help at the beginning of a map. And there's very specific things, like there's the beginning of the map, the first 10 to 30 seconds where you're ramping up, okay? That's the ramp up period. There's the middle of the map where you're just completely obliterating everything, okay? Everything in sight. And then there's the map boss and then the metamorph. These are the 2 single target scenarios, the only single target scenarios that matter. So we'll talk about that later as well. The 100% more critical chance, these 2 lines that both say 100% more crit chance on full life and low life, this is incredibly important because if you're a POB warrior, and this is why I kind of like, I like POB, but I also hate POB because people rely too much on these numbers. When you look at your crit chance sometimes with a build like this in POB, and you don't think that the monster is on full or low life, you might think that it's like, is that crit chance enough? Do I have enough crit chance? 100% more in this case, okay? Because there's crit chance is lucky from a diamond class, but besides like increased crit and base crit, this is a more multiplier in the truest sense, as in you are doubling your crit chance. You can't really find this other places in the game really for like, I guess, good map cleaning builds. So if you have, with a diamond class up, if let's say you have like 50% crit chance, right? What that means is you'll have 100% crit chance, okay? Like it's like really insane how this multiplies. The conditions are that it's on full life and low life. And the reason this matters and why it's so good is because you will be nearly at 100% guaranteed crit chance once you start stacking your power charges and stuff. The first hit on a full life enemy will almost always be a crit, okay? There's some instances where this won't be true, but it is almost always the case for if there's like nearby enemies, multiple enemies especially. And so when you cast on crit, you have to crit to cast your spell. So you're guaranteed to cast, and then your damage goes out, obliterates everything, okay, for the most part. And then on low life, when they're on low life, then you're 100% crit chance again. So this makes the feeling of casting all your spells really smooth. Without this node, if you go like something like this, it might be a little bit more iffy, especially on enfeeble maps. Now, I have tested this extensively. I have even dropped my diamond flask because of this, because I was testing out, I tested out like 20 maps or so with dropping the diamond flask, and I only had like 20 enfeeble maps in that set that I was willing to do. That's why I didn't do like 50. In an enfeebled map, an enfeeble just like gimps you so hard. I did not need the diamond flask with this node, okay? So this node's incredibly important, incredibly smooth, doubling your crit chance when you are reliant on accuracy and crit is it is just amazing. Okay, so get this node. So that is the ascendancy. Let's talk about the tree a little bit. Basic elemental damage, because we are converting. So our skills are GC, right? We have a GC in this weapon, and we have a GC in this weapon. It already converts 60%. How are we going to get that other 40% converted from fizz to cold? And it's not actually necessary. I have tried it with a Watcher's Eye with just crit, which is extremely cheap right now, and you don't need it. The benefit of having the full conversion is that the scalars are better. Like, for example, you can just think of something like this, and it's Zero's Promise, right? If you convert everything, right, you get the 20% more damage from the fizz, because it always takes the base fizz. And then if everything's converted, you get 15% more because it's all Ellie now. If you only have, like, let's say half of it, then you'll only get 7.5% of Ellie damage as extra Chow's damage during effect, right? Because only half is converted. So things like that make it really nice to convert fully. Also, if you convert fully, you may be able to do what's called reflect maps, right? Fizz reflect maps, because when you hover over tooltips, mine on secondary, when you hover over tooltips, you'll see how much damage you do. So you see right here, I do 8 to 12 fizz. So when that gets scaled, that is enough to kill me, surprisingly. So you really want everything to be scaled over if you can, or as much of it as possible. Okay, if you look at things like the EK, it is almost all cold and some other stuff, but it is also a little bit of fizz. And there is a way to fully convert, which I'll talk about. So how are we converting? Once again, with GC, we're at 60% fizz. Where do we get the other 40 if you want it? You can get it from a helm enchant, but then you lose the temp chains curse effect. You can get the GC conversion from the 40% fizz damage converted to cold during while affected by hatred. Okay, this is a very nice roll. It is divinable. The range is 25 to 40, as I'll show you right here. Yeah, right there. So 16 divines on average to get that to max, very easy, and then you probably get an okay crit chance roll as well if you want this. This is very expensive these days, very, very expensive. I got this for 30 exalts over 1 week ago, before I even started the character, before I even started leveling the character. Now I don't know if this even exists, because a lot of people are switching over to cast on crit because it's just very popular as like a mid-league build. So, well, once again, you don't need this. The swap right here is that you would just go a base crit. So you see that line, 1.61 crit chance while affected by hatred. You can just go that and anything else, right? Anything else you want. And that is totally fine, okay? I guess you don't need anything else because there's no other auras that you really care about. So just get the crit one. It should be like, what, 5 exalts or something like that. Very easy this league, right? If you watch my stream, we drop like at least 5 exalts a day, at least. It's exalt drops this league when you're juicing maps, completely crazy. So just get the base crit as a swap for this. Otherwise, on the tree, we are taking, like, this is... I explained this in the past video, but I've gotten destroyed by a metamorph, because right now you can't freeze metamorphs. After the patch comes, it might be different. I've gotten destroyed by metamorphs, at 40,000 EHP. As in it was actually like a 40,000 damage over like a quarter second, okay? When the damage is that high, you do not really build for life anymore. That's why you see me kind of skimping on life nodes everywhere, because who cares? Like if I have 4,000 versus 3,000, I'm getting hit for 40,000. Does it actually matter? No, it doesn't, right? And in this build, you are stacking 3 Inspire Learnings. And so you are stacking up, you're going to obliterate everything until that Metamorph one-shots you. And some of these Metamorph one-shots I've seen in YouTube videos for the hardcore players who have a lot of defense. You know, I have an extremely tanky Jug that takes on Eradicator sometimes, or tries to. And bad map rolls with like monsters like the Eradicator even can just like destroy lots of your characters in no time at all. And when there's damage like that in the game, if you're playing softcore, then it's just like, you know what, I'm either going to one-shot that thing, or once in a while, I will get one shot. Now, with this amount of life, 4K life, pretty fresh character, I'm at level 99. So, you know, it's totally fine. You're gonna level. This character will hit level 100 eventually. And yeah, level 99 I would say was pretty easy, pretty fair for what I've built as like a full map juicer here. So the tree is just going to take damage. You're going to take like crit where available if it is close by. I don't go for Written in Blood and Doomcast, because Written in Blood, once again, is it's just life. It's not going to help you out that much. And then of course the Doomcast with the node of the Assassin, with this, you know, you don't really need that much crit. And it's kind of like counterintuitive, because if you look in here, like look at my EK, right? The crit chance is where's crit chance? 31, right? You're like, right? But yeah, remember, there's base crit everywhere. And then there's like scaling power charges, and there's like stacking, right? There's a mod called Deadly that will give you so much crit chance, base crit chance. Not base chance, but like hundreds of increased crit chance and a little bit of crit multi. And I think it's like 300% increased crit chance per stack. You can steal, if monster has that, you could steal it another 3 times besides the headhunter, okay? So, and I'll talk about all the gear later. So that is, so it doesn't really matter how much you have. You look at my Cyclone, the Cyclone crit is, where is it, 20.7, which is pretty bad as well. But once again, after the first few packs, that Cyclone main hand crit chance base without the Diamond Flask, which I'm not even using right now, is going to be 100%, okay? And so you can think of everything. If you can survive the first 20 to 30 seconds of a map, you'll be at 100% crit for almost everything. There are also instances where even your Heralds, whether you're probably using Herald of Thunder will be scaled to 100%. Let me show you the Herald of Thunder crit chance. It's very low because it only has base. See, Herald of Thunder has no base crit chance, okay? Right now it has 6.86, and that's not the base crit chance because I have scalers on here. The base crit chance is 1.8 plus 2 plus 0.5, I think. Talk about that later as well. So that's how it works there with the crit. Now, as for the jewels, you have to do Ring of Blades. Now, Ring of Blades is interesting. I chose cannot be cursed with silence because if you are cursed with silence, even though you are doing an attack, you are doing Cyclone to generate the GCs going out from the Cospreys. This is a dual Cospreys build, and you are generating the EK casts from your chest. The Ring of Blades, if you get silence, it will stop you from it will prevent you from not being able to cast those things, right? If you don't have a cannot be cursed with silence jewel anywhere, it's very rare to get silence these days. But if you do, okay, you will not be able to spew out your spells and you will get killed sometimes, okay? It's very annoying and it can catch you off guard. So that's why with this jewel is maybe 1 to 2C, right? Nobody cares about Ring of Blades. It's one of the most common jewel drops for Viridian jewels. You can corrupt them. Silence is common. Corrupting Blood is common. Whatever you want, get that, right? Very, very cheap. And so this one goes here because you need to have 40 dex in radius. With threshold jewels like this, you don't actually need them to be assigned, right? That's something they changed a long time ago. They only need to be inside the circle. That's very important, so it makes it pretty easy. Now, if you want to check if a jewel works, this works with any jewel, you can unsocket it, resocket it, and look at that. On the tooltip on your mouse, you will see the tooltip. Everything in the Ring of Blades jewel, if it's working, will be reflected in that white tooltip directly to the right of my cursor. Another thing you do, if you're not sure, you can mouse over the edge. See this? Boom. Before you even touch the jewel. You mouse over the very edge of the jewel socket, and you will see if it works. If this didn't work, it would only show the global effects. For example, the effects that we want is the fire projectiles in a circle and 5 additional procs, right? If I didn't have enough decks here, like for example, I'll show you what it looks like down here, okay? I'll just like swap it out for this one right here. And now look, you see what it says? You cannot be cursed with silence because that's an implicit, that's just global mod. And then the 15% increased global physical damage, that's also just a regular mod on the jewel. It's like having a rare jewel that has that. And so now I do not have the 40 decks in that radius for the EK to spew out the 5 additional proj, and more importantly, in a circle. Okay, very important to spew this out in a circle. I've tested it without it in a circle and it doesn't feel as good. Although it works if you do the chain, which once again we'll talk about later. So let me put it back. That is the good spot for it. A swap here is that you can put a ring of blades right here. Now this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point jewel socket, but it does allow you to put a glorious Venite right here where this pure talent is, if you want to go the glorious route. And I'll talk about that too. Like I said, this is gonna be an extremely long video. So that is what I have found to be the best ring of blade spot. The downside to this is that you lose an easy inspire learning, right? Because this node is really good, this node is good, and then this node counts, right? The resourcefulness, it counts as inspires, and you need 4 notables inside the radius. And so you would just take 1, 2 points right here, and it's a very effective, very efficient inspire learning. You lose that inspire learning, but it's okay because I think 3 is totally fine. Okay. So remember, if you want to, you can put the ring of blades right here. And that's why sometimes you saw me go over here, very inefficient travel nodes just to get this node. And then that was when I was using Glorious Vanity from the last video. Going down here, you have acro and phase acro. Dodge is really, really good in this game, right? Because unlike evasion, there's no entropy counter. It's just a flat chance to dodge. You can take pantheons such as Lunaris, right? If you get hit and you have 5% additional dodge, right? I have 10% chance to avoid projectiles. I avoid projectiles that are chained. If you're using a Jolum or like Anime Jardian or something like that, you can't chain off those things that can't chain from your minion to hit you, so that's really good. And I like the move speed at the beginning of the map. Okay, remember, once again, you're building almost everything for the beginning 10, 20, maybe 30 seconds. And then this one, Soul of Shakira, immune to poison. There's a map rule that says monsters poison on hit. It's sometimes the hits aren't that big, so it's not that scary, but I'd rather not be poisoned because I might think it's a bleed, I might panic. You know, things can happen when you're taking dot damage that make you play a little bit weird. So now that's one type of dot that I'm not taking. Caustic Ground and damage over time that's from like someone essence draining you or other forms is not poison. Okay, poison is very specific. It's a physical or a Chow's hit damage over time, and so this makes you completely immune to that. It's great. And then also you have 5% reduced Chow's damage taken. That's pretty good. Less multiplier, and then you have less damage over Caustic Ground, which surprisingly there's a lot of, right? Caustic Ground boxes have an explosion that will hit you very hard. Be careful of Caustic Ground boxes. There's the explosion and then the Caustic Ground underneath. If you hit a Strange Barrel unique box, you'll see what I mean. Like, hit a Strange Barrel unique box, stand directly on it after you touch it, and you are going to get obliterated in some of these maps by the damage, because I have -60. Okay, so be careful there. So that is the defensive layer right here. Going down here, first Inspire Learning. So Inspire Learning here, once again, you need 4 notables. I have Fervor, I have Herbalism, Acuity, and Survivalist. And those are the 4 that make this work. Once again, to show that it works, I unsocket, resocket, and you can see this pop up. Or I can mouse over the jewel socket like this. See, when you kill a rare monster, you gain the mod for 20 seconds. The way that Inspire Learning works is it chooses one out of the mob. Mobs usually have what, like 3 to 4 affixes depending, and so it will select one at random and give it to you. Multiple Inspire Learnings do stack. I have 1 here, I have 2 here, I have 3 here. They all stack. The way that works, these are the 4 mods. Okay. They have an equal chance to be chosen by every Inspire Learning. And 3 Inspire Learnings can steal the same mod 3 times, okay? But they don't have to, obviously. Auras, okay? Auras cannot be like, a lot of these auras cannot be overlapped. So if you, this is why a lot of people ask, I am a CI build with a Headhunter and Inspire Learning. Why do I not have 50 billion ES, right? And that is because, you are stealing an aura. You steal the aura a lot for the discipline, and you'll get some ES there. And you're like, you have a lot of ES on the tree. Why do you not have so much ES? And it's because one of the biggest conversion multipliers to your ES is life as some ES. And because you are CI, you steal a shit ton of these life as ES mods from the monsters. your life is 1. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't give you that extra one. So low life builds are insane. Low life builds, you will see tons of ES because you have the life and you have the life that scales it as the base, and then you also have the ES stuff on the tree, just like CI characters. So don't worry if you're CI, you're not getting that much ES, okay? Because it's just because your life is 1, and that's a huge source of ES from the stolen mods, okay? It's a little caveat, a little off, a little tangent there. So Inspired Learnings will all stack. They will choose 1. Each of them will choose 1, and they can overlap. They don't have to overlap though. In the buff bar, all instances of stealing buffs are 1 icon. It's an orange icon that you probably saw in the last map. Headhunter is 1 icon, okay? So you kill 50 rares, there will be an orange icon in the top left that says 50 under it. Those 50 rares from the Inspired will be 1 consolidated icon. It will, let's say you have 3 Inspired Learnings and you kill 50 rare monsters as an example. It will not be a number that says 150. It will not be 3 different icons, 1 for each Inspired Learning that say 50. No, it's 1 icon that says 50. So if you have 1 Inspired Learning, it'll be an icon 50. If you have 10 Inspired Learnings for some reason, you can't get that, but I'm being hyperbole here. If you have 10 Inspired Learnings, it'll still be 1 icon with the 50 number under it. Okay, makes sense. So don't be confused if you feel like you don't have enough buff icons in your top left. That's just how it works. And I think that's a great system to be able to tell. But all instances are 1 icon. So Headhunter is 1 icon. The Inspired Learning is another icon. It's the same icon, it's just separate. Okay, so Inspired Learning is 1 icon in the top left. Headhunter is another. If you use Hunter's Lesson, that's another one. And then there's a Claw mod. There's a Claw mod. Well, I guess there's 2 different ones now. One's Elder, one is Crusader or something. I forgot what it was. But those will have another mod icon. So technically you can get a lot of them, but usually you just have 2, right? Header, Inspired Learning. With that out of the way, that is the slot. Why did I take these 2 points? This is just base crit. This is not attack or spell. It's just base crit. 50% base crit, so that in the beginning of the map I can be a little bit smoother. I didn't feel any need to put it into any other 2 pointers, although you have the flexibility to swap these points around. Okay, I'll go over what you can pretty much swap around here later on. I take this because it is base crit and fizz damage. So my spells, and you have to think about it this way: the GCs, 2 GCs, they're physical based, right? So huge. The EK is physical based, and it was buffed recently, so EK is very strong. Is a physical base. Physical explosion that comes from the chest modifier. Okay, when an enemy dies, they explode as fizz. That is also physical base, and then that has base crit from the assassin and the Watcher's Eye that you have here. And so that will be scaled, and it'll pretty much have infinite crit, 100% crit as well. So everything on this build pretty much is crit. I mean, I might one day be looking for a 2-socket Temporal Chains Light Poacher. That Spirit Burst, okay, is also physical. So that's why I took this node, right? It's physical damage all around. These 2 points you don't really need, but I like it because it's 2 points for 15%, 20 strength, 5 life gain on kill. Why not? Okay. These you can pat this point down here if you want, if you need a little bit more resist on your gear, right? So take this point, put it down here. Going over here, obviously any 2-socket or 3-socket jewel socket you're pretty much taking. This one I have Unnatural Instinct. Let's talk about the Unnatural Instinct. So before, I always use Intuitive Leap. Intuitive Leap allows you to allocate things that are not connected on the tree. So Intuitive Leap, I could take Overcharge, 8%, and I have Melding, which is 10% ES and 6% life, right? Not pretty good efficiency for those points used. Now, Unnatural Instinct gives you all the bonuses of unallocated small passes. And so what was quickly realized is that if you put it in here, you don't get the big nodes, right? So you don't get the big nodes, but you also save the points. So Unnatural Instinct is 2 points for the jewel socket, 2 points for these things. So that's 4 points used. But if you put on an Unnatural Instinct, you save the 4 points, right? You only use 2 points because it's for the jewel socket. And you still get, if you mouse over, once again, you can either do this to see what it gives you, or you can do this. Unsocket, resocket, it'll tell you the thing on your mouse. I now get 15% ES, 9% life, whereas before I was getting 10% ES, 6% life, so already better there. And then I'm getting the mana regen, I'm getting 4%, okay? 4% chance to gain power, frenzy, or endurance charge on kill. That is half of the 8%, but then when you do a little bit of math, you realize why this doesn't matter, because once again, you're saving the points and you get these 2, right? These 2 add up to 4%. So you have to think about it like this. If you have a map that has, let's say you're juicing it as 3,000 monsters. Let's say you kill 100 monsters, right? 100 monsters in the first few seconds is the math is that if you have a 4% chance to gain a random charge, then your chance not to gain a charge is 96%. So it's a lot easier to do the math that way. So what you do is you can go to, let me just do the math right here just to give you an example. So 0.96 is your chance not to crit. If you want to calculate your chance of not to gain a charge from 100 monsters after you've killed them, it is 0.96 raised to the power of 100. Your chance after killing a 100 pack of not gaining a charge is it's 1.6%. It is like near impossible. You're gonna get every charge all the time, and if you don't, somewhere along the line in every single map, there's gonna be a monster that gives you charge generation. Okay, it'll just give you the charge generation for free. And so even if I took this out, right, I don't take this right now, I have no charge generation. You would see at the end of the map, I would have full charges on pretty much everything, because the monsters, it is a very common mod on the monsters, and sometimes not reliable until the middle of the map, but this gives you reliability at the beginning of the map. Once again, we're building for the first few seconds of the map, so we take this, and it is extremely effective. It is reliable. You get your power charges, like, you know, sometimes even your power frenzy, endurance off the first pack is just boom, everything's full, right? Endurance charges is defensive, so if you're lacking a little bit of resist, endurance charges are 4% resist, and then the damage reduction, physical damage reduction, so very powerful. Whereas if you wanted to use something like Ice Bite or something in your Cospreys, which I'll talk about later, like different setups, you know, you lose damage and you're looking at reliability issues, right? And also you don't get the endurance charges. So I really love the Unnatural Instinct right in this slot here. Corrupting Blood is a bleed. It is considered a bleed. It comes in two forms. One, where you kill the enemy. I don't know if it's like the blue or the rare, but one is if you hit them, you stack up Corrupting Blood up to 20, I think, and then one is if you kill them, right? And so this is separated between the magic and the rare monsters. This completely negates all of that, with the downside that you're not using a Staunch Flask. So there's another kind of bleed, which is your regular bleed. If you ever leveled through the Malachi zones, the Harvest, the Belly of the Beast, there's those stabby dudes that stab you and you get bled all the time when you're leveling, right? Those bleeds, when you're standing still, you will not take any damage, because you're gonna have like 1 billion health, and you're gonna have like regen, you're gonna have leech, you're gonna have recovery when you're killing monsters because you're using a Cinder Swallow. But if you are moving, sometimes it is dangerous. Sometimes when you don't have enough stacks, you're like at the start of a map, you get bled, you have 4,000, you start running around really fast, you're not paying attention, you're in ultra wide, so like you can't really see your life bar that much. The regular bleed might catch you off guard, so just keep in mind that this is not protect you against every bleed, only the dangerous one, because the normal one you can always kind of power through, okay? But just know that you are not completely immune to the regular one. But I don't really have much issue with that. That's just something for newer players. If you're going through it, you will realize that this doesn't protect you from that normie bleed. So Unnatural Instinct right here, amazing choice. Going over here, we have our second inspired. The notables here are very obvious in the node. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one doesn't count. This one's touching the border, but it doesn't count. They shifted this a little bit like a while ago, so that it was like harder, and they also added some stuff here. So this inspired learning is from Instability, Mystic Bulwark, Prodigal Perfection, and Blast Radius. Blast Radius helps a little bit for the Fizz Explosion and the GCs, and of course the Frost Bomb. And the Mystic Bulwark, I mean, okay, sure, a little bit of that, but whatever. And then this one is actually not bad, because it increases your mana and a little bit of damage there, okay? There is an important note here in this build about more multipliers versus increased multipliers. So if you have no modifiers, you are a freshly created character, 40% more damage is exactly the same as 40% increased damage is exactly the same as 40% more damage. Okay, I hit a mob for 100 damage. If I have 40% more damage, I deal 140 damage. If I have 40% increased damage, I also deal 140 damage. Okay, makes sense? So in these builds, when you have a ton of more multipliers, okay, like pseudo real more multipliers, you still do want to have a little bit of increase somewhere. That's why, like, sometimes nodes, like, you have like all these like little damage nodes where I could like just go here to go 2 points here and then save like 3 points here. Like these little nodes, like especially like here, like you see I have spell damage and a little bit of damage here, and then like little damages like here. These little nodes do help a little bit. So just keep in mind that this will be important later. If you try to allocate tranquility, you'll see what I mean. You need kind of both, you know, because even though the more multipliers and things like support gems are multiplying each other, it's still good to have a base increased modifiers that is being multiplied, if that makes sense. It's just a little thing. Don't always skimp out on increased modifiers, but don't go out of your way for them. Okay, it's very hard to explain this concept, but like that's why I take things like this. This is 4 times 6, 24% increased damage, right? And that gets hit by the more multipliers. So that's why I take, sometimes you'll see me take like little damage multiplier, even though it might seem like, is that really worth? But it's up to you. You can fiddle around with the stuff. So that inspire learning works. Once again, boom, see, it works. I went through here. I could go right here and drop these 2 life nodes, which I might do later. I'll save 2 points and I get this, right? I lose a little bit of health, but it'd be fine. And then we're gonna go here. Now, Frostwalker is nice because most of my damage, like 90% of my damage just off the base is cold, right? You mouse over here, you mouse over the GC, you'll see that it's almost all cold. So that's huge. Resist, kind of nice. Why did I take Firewalker? Firewalker is because I'm using Herald of Ask. Herald of Ask is, I think 50% of Fizz as extra fire. That's pretty good. And then also there is a rare monster steal that is 25% of Fizz as extra fire. That is huge, right? And there you stack that so many times. So this 25% increased fire damage actually does something. But more importantly, let's go back to the fact that we're building for the first 10 to 20 seconds of the map. If you get hit by an LA resist these days, you see this? I believe that, hold on, I think it was 109 was before, correct? 109 total res here was LE weakness cap in red maps because it was a level 12 LE weakness. Because of the awakening level bonus, everything's being multiplied by 1.24. That LE weakness, I believe, is 2 levels higher. So now you need 111 to be LE weakness capped. You go into an LE weakness map, it'll subtract this. You have to try to be, you know, capped 75 at least, right? So that helps me do that. Later on, in the middle of the map, I have between anywhere from 500 to 1,000 all resist. It won't matter in the middle of the map, but in the beginning, when it's dangerous, you don't want to get hit by that more multiplier when you have like no HP, right? So solving the beginning of the map, that's why I took this. You don't have to, but it does even out. And there's a lot of LE weakness maps, okay, out there. I don't want to have to like not do those. So that's why I'm saving myself at the beginning of the map by taking this node. So look at that, fully LE weakness capped. Obviously with endurance charges is 4% res per endurance charge. I think I have 4 endurance charges. You're going to be covered that way as well, but just a little bit of safety there. This is a 2-point node. This is where I put my Watcher's Eye. Once again, the hatred and the hatred conversion. You only need the hatred crit. I have tested it with just the hatred crit and it works fine. Then we're gonna go down here. Accuracy. Now, accuracy is a big point that I'm gonna talk about a little bit later, but accuracy is huge as well, but only to a certain extent that you can get it very easily, and I wouldn't go out of my way to do that. Right, big node here because it's just a connector. I'd rather connect here than here because it's just like such a massive node, right? But once again, 2 points, 15%, and you get the 30 base right there, right? Same as like these nodes right here. That's why I took that. But if you want to be ballsy, you could connect right here instead of here. Okay, so a little bit of damage here. You know, we got the all res. This inspired right here. You can see that it works when I unsocket and socket it again. Right, we have the faith and steel, overcharge, devotion, and the endurance, giving me that inspired learning. That's the third one. Why did I take this node? This node doesn't do anything for my spells. Why would you take this? Once again, 25% increased melee crit chance for the Cyclone at the very beginning of the map. That tiny bit might help me. And also that strength and intelligence. Intelligence on this build is kind of an issue sometimes depending on your setup. So that 10 intelligence is actually good for me. Not so much anymore because I fixed it other ways, but you might find yourself in lacking 10 to 20 int and you might be like, how can I get that? And this is a great node for it because it gives you like that reliability, a tiny bit of reliability at the beginning for that crit, and then you get the stats as well. Okay. There's other things like there's like strength intelligence down here. You know, you want to get like a good, you don't want to like go out of your way for like something like this stuff, right? If you need to, or like there's no like real like int that nearby. So that's why like I went like, for example, I went like here instead of like in here. Okay, so that's that right there. Okay, let's talk about swaps on this tree, and this is gonna be a big section. So there's a jewel out there called a Transcendent Mind, and let's take a look at this. First, I was using it up here. If you want to drop down to 2 inspireds, you would put it right here. You see this? I'll drop these 5 points. You would save 5 points here to do whatever you wanted with, because you don't need the inspired nodes from these 2 notables. Look at this. 1,125 actually. That is huge. They moved this node, the utmost intellect. It used to be like massive, like 1,500, 1,600, but they moved it out because it was too OP. So now it still gives 1,000. That's huge. Another node you can do it on is right here. Look at this. If you put it here, look at that. Wait, what happened here? Where's the, wait, what the, there we go. 600 accuracy. So you lose 500. But it's totally fine because you can get that 500 other places. And this also subtracts to the intelligence, so make sure you have that intelligence covered if you are ever to like weapon swap or do something else, okay? Transcendent Mind here is also okay because it's a 2-point jewel and 600. If we look at the accuracy doesn't matter for spells because spells have a 100% hit rate. However, the Cyclone, let's look at the offense. Right now, with just 625 accuracy, right? I have 100/98. That's like, I think too much. It's really, really good. And it is really reliable. Up here, look at this. If you put it in that node right there, 100/100, right? Pretty damn good because the way that it works is like first you have to check the hit, then you check the crit. So this is fine because if your crit's 100%, then it's only checking the hit. But if your crit's not 100% in any circumstance, then it's like really iffy because it's like less multipliers going against each other, right? So that's why it's very important. You will steal accuracy from rare monsters a lot. Your chance to hit will be 100%. It like if you can survive the first 10 to 20 seconds, your crit chance, your true crit chance with no flasks, and your accuracy will be a true 100%. Now let's see what happens because I do have a helm enchant. Let's say I take this out, right? I'm 97.93, which I feel is okay. And then I do this. I take off my helm enchant, or sorry, my helm has tier 1 accuracy on it. And when I take it off, 85.79. At that point, I think there's a less enough multiplier where you're like feeling a little bit iffy in the enfeeble maps. So I would recommend either having the Transcendent here and no helm enchant for, or sorry, not helm enchant, helm affix for accuracy. Okay, so Transcendent Mind here and no accuracy on any of your gear, or if you really want to, you can just put it here and drop it in Inspire Learning. That's a swap right there. Okay, obviously you gotta get your Watcher's Eye in, but I'm not using it because I was able to craft this helm myself for an accuracy roll, and I feel that 97.93, the like with how fast it shoots to 100%, I was very comfortable with this. I've tested out so many maps. Okay, like you can watch my stream. That's why I was doing all these iterations. That's why I was like having the profile private, because I was testing so many weird setups that I did not want anybody to copy, because they would see that I had like 85 accuracy and they'd be like, what the hell is that, right? And then they'd copy that and think that they were okay, but you know, so with this at 97.93, anything above 90, I would feel pretty damn comfortable with. Talk about gear later and how to craft that helmet. So that is a skill tree. Another big swap, there's a gem right here called a Glorious Vanity. Here it is. This gem right here. This is a cursed gem. It does not matter the general because we're not going for it. If you put the gem right here, you save 5 points. For example, I take out the pure talent. If I put in a Glorious, what happens is it converts the, you see how it converts the acro and phase acro to something else? Look at this. So now you don't have acro, phase acro. So if you use a Glorious Vanity, it goes in this socket. This is the socket for it. And on this build at least. And you will not take any of these 5 nodes because they are useless now. And sometimes kind of a hindrance, right? Very dangerous. So it'll go here. Why would you use this? Let's talk about curse effect. You're going to be using a Solstice Virgil. That's no questions asked. Just use a Solstice Virgil. I know you can use Pandemonious, but don't, okay? Because it's really annoying to divine the Glorious in this spot right here. So you will use a Solstice Virgil. If you use a Solstice Virgil, you need 45% additional curse effect. Okay, and we are going to use a Solstice. So where do we get 45? You can get a Helm Enchant. A Helm Enchant is 30%. Where else can we get it? Well, we can get Curse on Hit. Curse on Hit with 20% quality is 10% effect. So, right, that's 40 already. And then I've anointed Hexmaster on here for the additional 5. Okay, how can we swap that? I got Helm Enchant for 30. If you have a 23% quality Curse on Hit or Awakened Curse on Hit, then that's 11%. So 11 plus 30 from the helmet is 41. Where do I get that for? There is a very nice jewel called a Conqueror's Potency. Look at that. Wow, perfect synergy. 4% increase effective curses. 4 plus 11 is 15. 15 plus the helmet enchant of 30 is 45. Perfect. You are now multiplying all your buffs, right? Everything on your character by 4 times. Okay. That's a swap there. So you can either go Hexmaster 5%. My Awakened Curse on Hit, I just happen to corrupt this myself for 23%, so that's 11, but just imagine it's 20%, or it's a normal Curse on Hit 10%, right? And then the Helm Enchant. What you will need if you don't have the Helm Enchant, though, right? If you don't have the Helm Enchant, once again, you need 45, because we're running Solstice Virgil, so 45 is all we need. You will have to get 45. You can get 11 from the Curse on Hit, 4 from the Conqueror's Potency, or you can get 10 here, you can get 5 from Hexmaster Anointment. That extra 30 you're going to have to get from the Glorious Venite in this spot. And the way to do this is you will type in here, it is effect of your curses or something, right? Is it where is it? Okay, I don't think there's any in here, but it's like you will type in, like, you can just type in like effect or something, right? If you type in, like, you see this, well, that's non-curse, but okay, I don't have any in this node, I think. Yeah, I don't have any of the curse nodes in this node because it's not a good one. But you type in effect, and every single time you divine it, you have to refresh the search bar. You cannot leave the wording here, because watch this. You see how this Legacy of the Whale right here? If I take this out, right, and I divine it and I put it back in, it doesn't matter if it changed, it will still highlight the same nodes, even though they've changed. So you need to re-copy and paste it every single time to recheck. Okay, that's very important. Don't like debate yourself out of a lot of divines. So in here, let's just pretend we're divining. You need 30%, okay? Preferably, I mean, you might get more, but it doesn't really, like, if you get, let's say you get more, you can drop the Conqueror's Potency, which is kind of nice. And I'll tell you how to do that. The absolute best nodes would be right here and right here. Notables are called Hex Master, I think. They can go up to 15%. So you see how you're already taking this because of like, let's say you're going Inspired Learning right here, and you're already taking this right here, because you were eventually going the Resist and Inspired Learnings right here. It has to take this node. This is no extra skill points, and if you get perfect rolls on 2 Hex Masters, then you will have 30% for 0 points. That's insane. That will be a very expensive Glorious Venite if it is these 2 spots, 15, 15. There is little nodes like this, okay? There might be 1 point points that you can go to that will be 4%, right? Sometimes it's 3% if you're unlucky, right? 4%, I don't think they can go to 5%. If you get a 1.4%, that allows you to drop a jewel. Jewels are usually 2 or 3 skill points, so you're spending 1 point to save an entire jewel. Very powerful, right? And that way you don't have to use this if you don't want to. Remember, you need 45 curse effect with the Solstice Virgil. If you have the Helm Enchant with the 30, then you only need 15 elsewhere. So the general rule is, if you wear the Temp Chain's curse effect, which I am, you shouldn't use the Glorious, okay? If you choose to go Helm Enchant, do not use Glorious, because you can easily get that with the quality on Curse on Hit, and then either a Conk Potency or the Anointment for Hexmaster. Hexmaster is a very nice anointment, because not only does it give you 5% effect and 40 AoE, and that 40 AoE of curse skills will actually matter in a hilarious scenario where you are self-cursing. And I mean, you're taking out the Awakened Curse on Hit, and look at this. You are casting this yourself. That's pretty hilarious, right? Why do you do that? Well, Awakener level 8 right here is a multiplier to all the mods. A mod that is 90% avoidance would be totally fine, right? And we can even do hexproof with Awakened Curse on Hit level 5. But 1.24 times 90%, it brings it over 100%. It doesn't show on the map. It just says monsters cannot be affected by ailments. If you cannot shock a monster, because Herald of Thunder's proc is based on killing a shocked enemy. Monsters in those maps, right? It's probably about 5-8% of maps. If they cannot be shocked, your Herald of Thunder is not going to be hitting anything. So Herald of Thunder Curse on Hit, when it's striking enemies, will do nothing. You will not apply the curse to yourself. Your buffs will expire really, really fast, and you'll be vulnerable. How do we get around that? Well, in 90% avoidance maps on Awakener 8, we take out our Curse on Hit, and here's what I'm doing, or I will be doing. I will have a separate Shackles of the Wretched, because they're pretty cheap, and in a separate Shackles of the Wretched, I'll have Temp Chains probably like faster casting, and maybe I don't know, maybe enhance or something. I don't know, but it will be a temp chain setup in a separate pair of shackles where I run all the avoidance maps in a row. And when you self curse a monster, right, it costs 33 mana. You have like 100 something mana, right? Right now my orbs are off. You will self curse a group of monsters, and that, because it's inside of the shackles, it will reflect back onto you, and that is a fix for the avoidance issue, right? It's so dumb, right? But that's just what we're working with these days if you want to save those 90% avoidance maps. So the Hexmaster Anointment is good for filling out your maximum 4x times your headhunter buffs, your inspired buffs, your flash charges. Multiplying your flask by 4 times is insane, because look at this, right? The Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline is only 3.7 seconds, and we don't have really any flask effect or duration on the tree. So multiply, like, let's say like that, it's like 15 seconds, right? 15 seconds is a long ass time for this flask. And look at these. Like some oh my god, this one's not even qualityed, but like look at this one, right? Like this one's like 5 seconds, like look at this, 4 seconds, 6 seconds. So multiply that, that's like almost a 30-second flash. So it's really powerful. So Hexmaster gives you the effect of your curses. It gives you the AoE for when you're self-cursing, all right, in 90% of avoidance maps. And then a big one is the 80% increased skill effect duration. 80% increased skill effect duration, I believe, is greater than a 20/20 increased duration gem that you could technically socket in your 4-link with your Hero of the Thunder curse on hit, Hero of the Thunder curse on hit, temp chains, and increased duration. You could totally do that, but I would advise against it because you're already limited on sockets as is. That 80% increased skill effect duration will make the curse on you a lot longer, meaning that you'll have a lot more time to loot. If you don't have this, or you don't have the increased duration on the temp chains in the gloves, you might find, if you're a very slow clicker, you don't have good clicking accuracy, or your loot filter is really bad, and you are picking up too many items, you're just gonna like lose some of your temp chains. So when your temp chains falls off, your the only thing I'll probably be on is your Solstice Virgil Shaper's Presence, right? And you'll be like deceived, because your text will be blue, which, so you'll think that you're getting the slow buffs, but they're not actually 4 times slower. They're only like, you know, you're not getting 80-second buffs, you're only getting 30-second buffs from your header buffs and stuff like that. So very dangerous. Okay, so this makes it so that you pretty much have 100% uptime on your curses, right? That's why I anointed that. If you're very fast or very strict loot filter, you could actually take this off, and you could you can fill in the curses some other way for the curse effect, and then you could take I don't know, Tranquility. Tranquility is an insane node for spell damage, especially with the header and buffs. So that's what you could do right there. Okay, so I think I explained the Glorious, right? Glorious has to go right here. Right now I'm putting in Pure Talent. Let's talk about Pure Talent. Pure Talent, the only reason we use this is because it's base crit. I explained how crazy base crit was with Deadly Infusion. Now this is 0.5 base crit because we are Shadow, so we have to start the Shadow area, and that bonus is 0.5 base crit. It's insane for 3 points. I want to take it for reliability at the beginning of a map, and I believe that I do feel the difference. It is pretty nice. Okay, more multiplier to base to crit right there. So that's about it for the tree, the Glorious. You can try this, but I'd say just go with the Helm. I'm going to talk about this Helm enchant a little bit because I was using EK projectiles 30%. So the way that EK works is EK shoots its projectiles in a quarter second. I believe it moves at 120 units per second. So discharge is a 30, everyone knows discharge radius, right? Everyone's played discharge, 30 unit radius. So the EK is basically a quarter times 120, 30 radius naturally. That's not very big. That's not very big at all. So you kind of need projectile speed, right? So what you can think of it as is I have projectile speed right here. So I have 5, 10, and then that's 20. So 20% right there. And do I have any other, let's say, projectile speed? I think that's all I have, because there's no one going like down here, right? So with this projectile speed, what's going on is with 20% increased projectile speed right here from the tree, 20 times 120 is 24. So I am at 144 units over a quarter second, okay? So let me just do the math right here so that you guys can see how much AoE I'm gaining. Sorry, this is like, these videos are just one takes, so I don't really prepare, I'm just like talking. So 120 times what was it? 120 base units times 20%, so 1.2. I'm at 144 units divided by 4 because it's over a quarter second. I've gained 6. I've gained 6 units radius. That's 20% more AoE. The reason I chose the physical spells and the EK is because things like Frost Nova and Frostbolt, they don't have the physical scaling that I really want, because those are more multipliers, because the header buff steals very often the 25% of Fizz as extra fire damage, and it stacks up a lot of times where you just can't get that with non-physical spells, okay? And also projectile speed is true AoE. True AoE means that it is not hindered by anything. Like if you have AoE, there's a map mod called less AoE that rolls pretty often, and then once again, Awakener bonus, we always have to keep in mind, this 1.24 multiplies that less AoE. So you have like pretty much no AoE at all. It feels really bad in those maps. Projectile speed, there's no map mods at all that ever reduce projectile speed. So this is true AoE coverage. I went from 30 units to 36 on average of the EK. There's a variance of the EK, but on average, it'll be this units traveled. So at 36 units, if I do the Helm enchant for 30, there's a Helm enchant that's 30% EK speed. That means I'm at 1.5 times 120, okay, divided by 4. I'm now at 45. With the Helm enchant, I am essentially 50% more AoE, okay, that cannot be hindered by any map mods or monsters or things like that. That is insane, right? So here's what I was thinking. I was thinking because of that, I wanted that enchant, but that enchant forced me to go Glorious Vanity. It forced me to use more points, so I didn't like using that many points. I like the freedom of this like very stable tree, very good tree. And so I took it off, right? So I lost the extra radius. So instead of 45 average radius that the EK would hit, I was only getting 36 as of right now. So what did I do? What did I do about that? Well, I just changed my links. So let's go to the links. You are gonna Cyclone, obviously. Where's the Cyclone? You're gonna Cyclone to generate your spells, right? With cast on crit. After the patch, you'll use Awaken cast on crit, but it's bugged right now. So use regular cast on crit until then, because remember, if you're doing the tippy tappy method, you actually can't use Awaken cast on crit, which I have right here, because there's a cooldown on it and it's some input lag stuff. So don't use that until the patch, maybe tomorrow. Fizz to lightning to convert 50 of the EK fizz damage to LE, and then also remember Watcher's Eye converts another 40. You can get the last 10% if you want to use a Glorious. If you are using Glorious, there's a very common node that converts 10% of fizz to the elements. Okay, so that's pretty good there. If you want to fill out the last 10% and do reflect maps, fizz reflect maps, but you don't have to. So that is why I took that link. This is how I made up for it. So I lost the EK enchant, so I lost the extra range, but I gained the fork, and now the fork forks twice because it's awakened, and that is how I made up for the coverage a little bit in that way. Make sense? So before I was using Pierce. Pierce is pretty good. It's a more multiplier. This is 9% more multiplier. It will be 10% level 6. Pierce is I think a 20% more multiplier, so a little bit better in terms of pure damage, but this coverage was the best of both worlds in the reliability of the Helm enchant, the skill tree, safety, the skill tree, shifting of the points, balancing of the points, and all that. So I like this. I did test out Awaken Chain, and I'll show you the differences here. Let me bring up my browser. Okay, I tested out probably close to 100 maps with each one of these. And for the most part, I couldn't notice that much of a difference. I don't think. It's really hard to notice. But let's talk about theory, like theoretical, why you would choose one over the other. Once again, I tested out both. I don't know the difference. I couldn't really feel it. It was obliterating everything. But we're going to talk theory so that you can choose for your situations what you might want to use. I went with Fork in the end because it is more even spread and it is a more damage multiplier. So, you know, less multipliers suck, right? Because like if you do 10% less damage, right, as a multiplier, and then you get 10% more damage, you still don't have your same amount. You're at 99 instead of 100, right? So less is always more powerful than more, if you understand what I'm saying. So I wanted the more multiplier from the Awakened Fork, whereas the Awakened Chain has a less multiplier. Okay, does that make sense? Like if you do 100 damage and you do and there's a modifier that makes you do 10% less damage, you're at 90, right? If you have a modifier that then you hit a flask or something that makes you do 10% more damage, you don't go back to 100. You're not at the same amount. You're at 99 now, right? And so this ebb and flow of less and more model, I didn't like that. So I went with the fork in the end. Look at this diagram. On the right is how the fork works, okay? So the first arrow, right? Let me change the color so you can see. Purple will be my pointer. The first EK shoots out like this. See the purple going out here? It hits a monster right here. The X is the monster. The two green arrows are the first fork, and these 4 additional arrows afterwards are the second fork. That is how the coverage cone is. I believe the coverage cone, the angle of the fork is always the same, so good spread, and this is 1 projectile. You have a lot of EK projectiles. Theoretically, things behind monsters can get shotgunned in a pseudo shotgun fashion. Okay, so let me give you an example. If you cast a split arrow point blank on a boss or something, the split arrow is not going to all hit them. It's not going to hit by every projectile. But with a fork in groups of monsters, a monster behind 2 monsters can get hit by double forking projectiles. And the way that chain works is chain between 2 monsters, very noticeable on bosses that have 2 or 3 bosses in a map. They can chain infinitely between 2 or more monsters if they are like separate, right? If you have the chains for it, but you don't have like infinite chains, so it doesn't work, right? And also the monsters move, so it might miss. Okay, and if you miss, it's not going to just like randomly heat seek onto the target. So on the right is fork. That's the coverage for 1 projectile. Now on the left here, okay, let's say the monster is right here, the X. The chain, how it works is, let's say these are the monsters right here, right? So chain has 3 additional chains, so it hits the first monster on this first X, chains once to this guy, chains twice to this guy, chains 3 times that guy. So the coverage is pretty good, right? Because you have so many projectiles, and of course, if it doesn't die for some reason, it can chain back to other monsters. And that is great, but there might be a situation where, like, you see these red arrows could be like, what if it goes backwards, right? Because remember, true AoE is what we're looking for here. And the fork gives you very clean coverage if there are monsters back there, right? If there's monsters back there, they'll get hit by the projectile. If there aren't, who cares if it travels and forks more, because there weren't any monsters back there to begin with. These red arrows, chain is auto-targeting as long as it has fast enough projectiles to hit the monster before it moves. So what if it goes the other way? Then sometimes, like, theoretically, you might have some iffy coverage. Once again, in my testing, I did not notice much because there's so many projectiles. The projectile's so goddamn fast that you don't know what's going on. You got your GC covering, you're casting so fast, so many different things. But this is, once again, this is theory. Make your own decisions based off of this. Okay, you might find one better for certain maps. Okay, chain might be better for like really indoor maps because more chance of it to go straight down the corridor and go around the corridors, whereas the fork has less chance to do that. Okay, that's another little thing I'll say there. Okay, so that's chain versus fork. And then there's EK, get a 21, 21, 23 is probably the best. This was like a 15C when I bought it. Cyclone 21 gives you an additional radius, I believe, and then the Awaken Control Destruction is just a big more multiplier. The reduced crit chance doesn't matter because you have 100% crit. Okay, so those are your set, kind of like, these are the flavor settings right here. After the patch, make sure you go Awaken cast on crit, and then right here, the Awaken fork, you can try Awaken chain, you can try pierce, you can do whatever you want, right? That is the swap for this gem. Put in what you want, okay? I mean, hell, even put in Empower or something if you have like a +1 chest or like a +1/+2 chest somehow. And then the links in here are temp chains for the gloves. Like the way that the shackles works, I have a video on temp chains if you want to go watch that. But it has to be inside the gloves. If you have that LE weakness or you have a corruption, it does not work that way. It will not reflect the LE weakness to yourself, even though it's corrupted on the gloves. It has to be a gem socketed inside of the gloves. So I have my temp chains, I have my Awaken Curse on it, and my Herald of Thunder, and I have Flame Dash in here. Okay, Flame Dash is fine. It's whatever there is. I mean, I guess there is a hit. You can apply the you can apply the temp chains that way, right? Okay, with the Flame Dash, but for reliability, what you do for the avoidance maps is take out this and then curse it yourself. So in here, the Flame Dash, what is this used for, right? Flame Dash, if you have all the stacks, it's always instant, even with temp chains on you, pretty much. And this removes green vines. There's a thing called Vile Grip. When you get cursed by Vile Grip, your character will be covered in green vines. You will be moving very slowly. You'll notice it. The second you see the green vines on your character, very easy to see because your usually character is like 100 feet tall. Cast the Flame Dash immediately when you notice that you are slowed, and you will clear the green vine effect right away. You will not be affected by it at all, although the MTX, the green vines, the color and the vines will be on you still. So that's what Flame Dash is used for. It's also used to traverse terrain if you're doing variety maps. But yeah, this is a mandatory setup for like the vanilla version if you're not doing avoidance maps, okay? Temp chains, curse on hit, Herald of Thunder. Herald of Thunder also adds damage so you can like shock easier, I guess. So that's kind of nice. Okay, Herald of Thunder ticks at 200 milliseconds. So 5 different enemies can be hit per second on the same target is a 400 millisecond timer. Okay, the best thing about the Awaken curse on hit is not actually the apply an additional curse. It is the chance to apply hexproof. With this chance, 25% chance to apply to hexproof enemies, you can run any hexproof map with full uptime. It feels as if it's a normal map, okay? And that is insane. That saves you the map rolls right there. I guess the apply an additional curse is fine because I have +1 curse here, so that's 2 base, and then apply 1 is like 3, right? And I have like the Ellie weakness, I have the temp chains, I have the assassin mark on the ring. That's set up there. This is a full-blown headhunter build. You have the headhunter here, you have the combs roots right here. Now these are very important. You cannot temp change yourself unless you're a jug with unstoppable without the combs roots. If you don't have these, the ramp up is going to be so goddamn slow. You're better off just going tailwind boots and no self curse setup. You have to have the combs roots. The best corruption would be 10% move speed. So you'd have 10% move speed corruption, you have 10% enchant for the first few seconds of the map. It'd be great. The 10% move speed is fine though because it's like easy to buy, and you know, if you get hit, who cares? You lose it, but you'll be fast enough anyways. The move speed doesn't matter once you have like 1,000 move speed. But you have to have this, because the great thing about Combs Roots is that you don't need a heat flask. You cannot be frozen in any way with Combs Roots on. This is huge. Saves you the flask suffix. Also, the action speed is basically the temp chains cannot take you negative, so you're always like your base movement speed, and you can stack on top of that to get faster. All right, without this, it is not worth playing self curse temp chains. I'm telling you, don't try it. This also, if you are a Deadeye trying this, you cannot gain Tailwind. Okay, self curse temp chains makes Tailwind do nothing. So if you take Tailwind in any way while self cursing, it doesn't work. Unspec it, get it off of your thing. As for the this ring, so this is just a resist ring. I anointed my rings with meteor because of the Cassie missions. Like, why not have a little bit of single target? Those meteors destroy things. But this is just a resist ring, a big resist ring, and I have -3 to total mana cost crafted. That's a prefix, and that makes my Cyclone 1 mana. There are maps that cannot regen. Sometimes your attack speed on Cyclone gets to like 100+ attacks per second, and at that rate on a cannot regen map, you will expend your mana unbelievably fast. I have 147 mana. It goes down like that. And if you are in a situation where you spawn a metamorph or get to the boss and you start doing this, you start spinning really early before the guy is spawned, you're gonna run out of mana on a cannot regen map, and then you're gonna have to like do some weird stuff, right? Or you're gonna like go back to town. So in these, if you want to be covered, you don't want to separate your cannot regen maps, take this. Take 3 points here. So you can like unspec this point, you can unspec like this point, and you can like unspec this point probably, and just take Lucidity. Lucidity will make your, I know it's -3, so it's over, but the other 2 points don't matter. It's just for the -3 here. I guess you could also craft it on another ring if you if you want, but yeah, just get like the Lucidity. It's pretty easy, and then your Cyclone mana cost will be free. It's really nice for cannot regen, okay? Because I'm telling you, the attack speed is so insane sometimes. And so, but other than that, this unset ring is only because I want the big resist, and I use the prismatics on these to get 20% more resist on there, and it has a socket. Now you are very starved for sockets, because the boots have no sockets. The gloves have 4 sockets, but like everything's taken, right? Like these, the chest is for your EK, the weapons are for your GC and other stuff, and the helmet is for your aura. So like, we're gonna put the utility, right? Like, I wish I could put Whale Grace, Whale Haste, but I put Whale RF for that more damage multiplier, and it looks really cool. It lasts forever. Not forever, but it lasts a really long time, right? It lasts I think like 16 seconds. And so unset ring, just so I can fit in this skill, it's really cool. You can put in a defensive skill if you want. Whale Molten Shell is very powerful, but Whale Grace, Whale Haste also are fine. And then this ring right here is the Assassin's Mark, and then I just went for like the resist I needed and Assassin's Mark using the catalyst to make it 20% more resist. Okay, and then it's a really nice curse when you have a lot of when you have the crit multis. Let's talk about the cost freeze. This is a double cost freeze build. In the cost freeze, you want basically the attack speed actually doesn't matter that much, because you know you're gonna get a bunch of attack speed anyways, but that added to cold spells, if you look at the range, you want a very high added cold spell damage to spells modifier, because that range might not seem like a lot, but that is essentially like half of a high res. Each cost breeze is essentially half of what a high res gives you. So you use 2, you basically have a free high res, and you know how crazy high res is even after the nerf, right? And also, if you look at my spells, EK is 120 effectiveness, so 1.2 modifier times the added damage from all sources. GC is 0.6, or sorry, it's a 6% modifier, right? So 0.6, but it overlaps. GC has 3 cascades, and most monsters at mid-range or bigger target monsters can be hit by usually 2 cascades. So it's not really 60, it's more like 120, right? And you can see how crazy this is if you're going to add on the cost breeze. So I'd say number 1 priority on cost breeze is that added cold damage to spells, not the attack speed. Actually, don't go for any corruptions, because who cares, right? Like the crit multi is fine at the start of the map, and then later on it like fails to matter. So just get those 2 cost breeze. In this one, I have Conk Effect, GC, and Awaken Control Destruction. That's big damage. The overlap is fine. The coverage is good. It spews out really fast. So good single target there. It's not uncommon, even though this is a 3-link, for you to look in the tooltip, and because it's a physical damage spell, to hit like 1 or 2 billion damage on the tooltip once you're stacking. This one is another Glacial Cascade for even more coverage. It's hard to see because I have the Gore Glacial Cascade. I think it's less laggy. Awaken Control Destruction, and then we have Frost Bomb. Now, Frost Bomb, basically with this one, this will alternate between the GC and the Frost Bomb. Frost Bomb is not for the damage at all. It is for the exposure. So there's 3 types of reducing elemental resist for the monsters. There is things like Frostbite, which is a curse, minus resist. There's things like AL8 Weakness, which will stack as well, minus resist. There are things like Penetration, which work with the minus resist. And then there's Exposure, which is a separate thing. You have 1 instance of the exposure, and that is minus 25 cold res. That goes along with the minusing from things like elemental weakness, and then it also works with your penetration. So like let's say you have elemental weakness, so minus the resist, then you have exposure, minus resist, penetration, minus more resist. So you're just penetrating everything. And with once again with the Awakener 8 levels, multiplying the resist rolls and the monster resist and all that stuff, some of these monsters are pretty goddamn tanky, especially the metamorphs. Okay, so that is why you definitely want a little bit of this. That exposure is a very nice more multiplier. You can think of it as like if you use 20 Turbulent Catalyst on a Pandemonious Amulet, which gives you 24% penetration, you can just think of this as kind of like 25% penetration. I know it's not the same thing, but just like think of it that way and think about how crazy Pandemonious is. And then another thing is reduced life regen. I think it's like 75% reduced life regen. Some of these metamorphs regen unbelievably quickly, and they have so much health. So if you go with the Frost Bomb, you will reduce that by quite a bit, and you will feel a lot safer. This Frost Bomb is really only for the metamorphs. And if we're trying to build, remember earlier I was talking about the stages of a map. There's the first 10, 20, 30 seconds called the ramp up stage, where your character sucks, but he's getting big, he's getting burly. And in that stage, you know, you're killing trash mobs, right? You're spawning little rares, and then you'll even be able to take on the beyond bosses because you'll just stack up your rares so much. The middle stage is where you're completely obliterating everything in one shot, right? And then the end stage is the map boss, which shouldn't be an issue. Most map bosses now just get one shot if you have the stacks, unless you're like too busy, like, you know, looting or something, you lose your stacks. And then there's the metamorph, and the metamorph is the most dangerous mob in the entire mapping scenario. Like Abixoth, the end of all that rarely spawns as a beyond guy that casts all the different dudes. He is a complete joke. Okay, a detonate dead thingy that you can't see, you know, all the like the little things in maps that you might think are scary if you don't have like freeze, like for example Porkies, if you can't freeze them, that's nothing. Okay, these metamorphs sometimes once out of 20, 30, 50 are just a complete monstrosity of a fight, and doesn't happen often, but once again I have been destroyed in a quarter of a second for 40,000 damage. So the Frost Bomb is to even out the end of the map, the metamorph, okay? And that's the only reason it's there. I have tried hundreds of maps without the Frost Bomb, and I can tell you that the Frost Bomb, you do feel it. You do feel the exposure when it matters. You do feel it on the metamorph when it matters, and that's very important, okay? So try out the Frost Bomb here, but if you feel you don't need it, you can swap this out for another support gem for damage, or even another spell. Maybe you want a Freezing Pulse for some cool looks, because one thing is that, like, splitting is a common affix where you gain 2 projectiles when you steal it from rare. It's not uncommon to have like 20, 30, 40 extra projectiles when you steal all the monsters, right? And if you have a projectile spell like EK, that's great, good coverage, but you can't really see it, right? Because EK is hard to see. If you have a freezing pulse on here, you're gonna see it, and it's gonna go across the entire screen, even on widescreen. So it's really cool to have a projectile skill here that can take advantage of the splitting mod. So you can try that for good MTX good looks, okay? That's a cost-free setup. Let me talk about chess real quick. If we rank map clear juice, Headhunter Inspired Learning combo is number 1. That is the best. The second, though, is the Explodey chest. This Explodey chest scales with damage, area damage, physical damage, global damage, increased crit, crit multi, base crit, all these things. It will annihilate single target. If you tap it onto if you tap a chain of white mobs onto a blighted map boss, complete destruction. Sometimes a metamorph spawn its mobs, and the white mobs and the yellow mobs near the metamorph will take it from like 50 to 0, even if it's a really tough one. This physical explosion chains on itself. The only kill condition is that the monster dies to something you did, so that's how it chains on itself. I have videos in the past showing how crazy the chains are. It is the number 2 map clear from one source. Okay, Headhunter Inspired Learning, I consider that one source. That's number 1. This is number 2, easy number 2. It is insane. If you're gonna map, I would say you need this chest. It is night and day with and without this chest. The additional curse is just nice because I have 3 curses. You don't have to get that. You can get Whispers of Doom if you want to try that. I have some resist on here to cap out my resist. Now, there is something else. If you don't want the additional curse, you can get a attacks have base crit to even out your Cyclone, especially if you have bad accuracy or like you just want a little bit more crit there. It goes up to 1.5 for tier 1. I tested that out for 50 to 100 maps. I didn't feel it. After I took it out, I did not feel it because I like this additional curse and the resist and the Explodey more, right? But on the other one, you'll have Explodey as well. So it's either you go with Explodey, attack crit, or you can go Explodey and you can go curse. These are your 2 options here, okay? Try out both. You might like one better than the other depending on your setup. I like curse and the Explodey. That's just me, and the resist, right? And also this Regalia, when I bought it, it had like white sockets, so easy to put in the gems there. The helmet, let's talk about how to craft this helmet. So I have crafted a lot of helmets. Is like in the early leagues, helmets are a very easy source of money because people really value -9, right? And what that means is -9 resist of your choice, physical, cold, fire, lightning, even chows of your choice to nearby enemies. Nearby is pretty close. You'll see a crystal swirling on your character to indicate that you have that mod. And if you use pristine and an elemental fossil of your choice, aberrant, scorched for fire. Aberrant is chows, scorch is fire, frigid is cold, metallic is lightning. What's the physical one? Jagged, maybe? Serrated? I think it's jagged, right, for physical. This will like maybe, I'd say between 30 and 50, maybe 50% of the time will give you a -9 roll. It is very common. And the pristine guarantees a life roll. They removed the subterranean life roll that was like up to 25 and 3% max, but that doesn't matter. So if you use just in this case, because cold damage mostly to start, if you use frigid and pristine, you're pretty much guaranteed a decent life roll and a -9 roll as a suffix. And then if you want to, you will usually look for a resist maybe. And so for example, you use frigid fossil, you'll probably get cold resist. You use scorched fossil, you'll probably get fire res. You use a metallic fossil, you'll probably get lightning res, but not always. For example, it is possible to use a fossil of a certain element unless it blocks the other element and get so like if you use a scorched fossil, you'll usually get fire res as a suffix, but you could get lightning res. It's totally fine. Or you could get chow's res. It happens a lot. So this one, from I've crafted so many helms. I know from my experience, I was like, you know what? Accuracy shows up a lot, right? So what I was trying to do was get any kind of accuracy roll. And so I didn't use like fossil for that. I just used, I used hollow, frigid, and pristine to craft this helmet. Hollow because I wanted that hollow fossil right there. But I could probably take that out and go no hollow fossil and then go for -9 and then have an extra jewel slot for like something else, right? I might try that out as well. But this abyssal socket allows you a lot of flexibility because you can get things like onslaught on there. You can get stuff like phasing. You can get another accuracy roll. You can get stats, right? 12 to 16 is tier 1 intelligence. You might be struggling with intelligence early on, and that's really, really nice. So I wanted the hollow fossil. So once again, this helmet is crafted with hollow, pristine and frigid, okay? And I crafted that +1 stock to AoE gems because it adds to the auras, but doesn't matter too much. And then the accuracy is not really a common roll, but it happens enough that I remembered it from previous leagues. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can get accuracy. Okay, so that accuracy has gotten me to some pretty nice, Look at that, an 85, right? Like, I don't know if it's all from the helmet and stuff, but okay. So that's where we're at, right? Like, look at the accuracy difference from that tier 1 roll. See that? It's like pretty insane, right? So you can't get that. Once again, if you don't have that, you need a Transcendent Mind. So that is the helmet craft right there. What else is there to talk about? I think I've talked about quite a bit. It's taken a long time. Flasks. Okay, this is actually pretty big. I tested out a lot of maps, a lot of enfeeble maps without a diamond flask. I had my diamond flask as I tried out. Remember, you cannot use warding. Okay, do not use warding on self-crit things. But I was using a dousing and a staunching, right? I was just trying them out. And after I took it off and I did enfeeble maps without the diamond flask, I didn't notice. Taste of Hate is a more damage multiplier, and it is a defensive damage, against damage as well. So I swapped in Taste of Hate. I got more damage multiplier. I didn't lose any crit, or I didn't feel like I lost any crit on enfeeble maps, which means in regular maps it'll be even better. So I would say once your gear is good enough, Taste of Hate right here. Cinder Swallow is recovery. Recovery is insanely good in the early phase, the first 10 to 20 seconds of the map, because you're gonna kill white mobs, you're gonna get hit a lot, right? Because you're super slow, and you get hit a lot, but every white mob you kill, you will regen 3%. So the most important rolls are 3% of life and ES. The mana doesn't matter too much, but you do want 3% of life and ES, and then as high of a critical chance roll as you can get. Lots of people I see using a movement speed Veiled mod. That actually does not stack with this, because most people are going to use an Alchemist Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline. The 10% movement speed, 50% chance, so you get the stun avoidance, I guess, but the 10% move speed does not work with this. So it is a wasted mod. Get the 80% crit if you can. Okay, really good reliability on this flask right here, the Cinder Swallow Urn. It is one of the best flasks I think in the entire game. It's definitely top 3 flasks in the entire game for me. So also it has a mod where if enemies that get ignited take 10% increased damage. That's a more multiplier, right? In itself, that is additional with other more multipliers of the same type. How do you ignite them? Well, like I said, once you steal the physical as extra fire from the Headhunter and then Spiral Rings, you have everything will have fire damage. It's just going to ignite everything, so you always get that multiplier. Early on, I have this ring. This ring has fire damage to attacks, right? So it adds a little bit of it adds a tiny bit of the fire to here as well, you know. And that what that does is that when I'm cycloning, my Cyclone has 100% crit usually, so that's going to ignite them on the very early stages, okay? And because if you look right here, the GC, it doesn't have any fire damage right now. The EK doesn't have any fire damage right now, so my Cyclone itself, even though it doesn't do any damage, look at that, it will ignite, because it doesn't matter what the damage is. If I crit with the fire damage, they're gonna get ignited and instant 10% more damage there. So I think that's pretty cool combo right there from the start. Once again, later on, you're not really relying on your Cyclone, you're relying on your spells, the Fizz conversion to ignite everything, okay? But beginning, it's pretty glowy brain move right there. Quicksilver Flask of Adrenaline, just to speed around, right? This is my normal movement speed, very slow. If I pop it, I'm pretty quick right there. And then we have the Azubis. So once again, we are conversion 90%. GC is 100%, so GC gets 35% extra here. The EK gets the 20%, and then 90% of 15% there. A little bit of Chow's resist as well. This league, Chow's damage is everywhere, so this actually helps for the defensive as well as offense. One of the really nice flasks for physical converted builds. Bottled Faith is really nice. Now, Bottled Faith is kind of weird because it needs to be like on the consecrated ground. So you get, once again, you get base crit, 2% base crit against enemies on consecrated ground during this effect. Okay, that is really crazy and really reliable. And then also, if they're on the conk ground, and the conk ground is huge. Look at this. Look how big that is. Oh my god! And you have you can spam this flask pretty much. Like it has 3 normal uses. So that's another 10% increased damage taken. So lots of more modifiers here. Those are the flasks, okay? And but to start out, if you feel like you're not critting and getting your shots off early, maybe put on a diamond flask early on if you don't have maybe if you don't have the good gear, okay? And if you're really struggling, I guess you could swap out this Awakened Fork for even increased crit, because that increased crit gem 2120 will apply 2% to both the Cyclone and the spells. Maybe it'll help you out. Okay, that is one swap right there. I think I've talked about most things. Let's talk about the actual playstyle a little bit in terms of, I explained some things while I was doing the map, right? Like the tippy-tappy playstyle. Do not hold down your Cyclone unless you can avoid it, okay? The only situations you hold down your Cyclone, once again, is for single target, the boss, beyond bosses early on, and then the Metamorph. Otherwise, run around like this, tippy-tap, right? Just, you see that, like, you see those like tornadoes I'm tippy-tap? I do not hold it down because it's not necessary, and it'll make you so much faster clearing maps if you do not hold down your Cyclone. Other things, how do you Cyclone around single target? I found that a good method is some things have a lot of cone of like attack. So if let's say that this shrub right here, this white shrub is the monster, I like to go through the monster. Right? Let me reset this. Right? I like to go through the monster like this, so that when they attack, you're already like 180 degrees on the other side, right? Or for some monsters that have like, you know, like a cone based attack, you can circle around them. I would very I urge you to be very careful about cycloning in place, okay? Because there are things where like you want to be in place for some things. Like I saw like a chest that's like conk around while you're standing still or something. And then but if you're standing still, you're gonna get one shot by things, okay? So always be moving. Projectiles very scary in this game, okay? Especially things like the temple, the Alba temple has the constructs and stuff like that. So just always be moving. Do not stand still, okay? And then sometimes, even if you know you haven't used flame dash in a while, use a flame dash because it's instant. It will get you a little bit faster. And yeah, that's basically the playstyle. Recommended. Once again, you can drop the Inspired Learning right here, save 5 points. I wouldn't drop this one. I definitely wouldn't drop this one. And that is the build. Okay, whew, that was a long video, huh, guys? I hope I covered everything. Weapon swap for this is the weapon I was talking about in the beginning of the video, Sinvictas, right? So you swap to the Sinvictas. Let me just show you, right? So first, when you enter the map, you are Cyclone, you're killing, right? Very safe because you have your 2 single target things right here. But then once you get a little bit of stacks, one tap, mine's on number 1, right? I'm on Sinvictas, I kill 1 monster, I swap back, and then boom. I'm now back at it. You have Rampage for the entire map because it lasts for 16-second refresher on the Rampage stacks. Okay, very powerful. Rampage basically as this weapon swap, you get 100% increased damage at full stacks and 20% movement speed. The downside is you can't use a Maloney's Quiver and a bow to level 9 gems. You can only level 6 gems. I'm only leveling 2 because I'm dumb. And yeah, that's the build. Hope you guys enjoyed the build. If you have any questions, you can ask me on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/cutedog_. Yeah, I know that was a lot, but hopefully it helps some of you. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, bye everyone. Thank you guys. Bye.